couldn't imagine anybody being able to outmaneuver us with the P-50. We pulled off, he attacked our formation, and we pulled off, and Rosco and I, and Rosco got him in his gun shop. No pilot wants to say that he killed another guy. Gallon, 55-gallon gasoline tank outside the tent, and ran it into the tent inside another empty drum, and pinched the end of the thing so that it just dripped on the rock, and we lit that gasoline and burnt the gasoline for heat.
Wow.
And it provided good heat. So-called a radial engine, it's air cooled, and matter of fact they call it the jug. So I was happy that they had the P-51 Mustang, because the P-51 was more of a match for the Germans' Focke-Wulf 190. I think they allowed you to get 4 or 5 hours in before you went on a mission. For every mission you fly, you were allotted 2 ounces of alcohol, and we'd save it up until we got a bottle. When you segregated in a group like that, everybody seems to be 100% bent on being successful. You know, back in early 40s, I was in high school, and I used to read comic books like kids do in high school, and there was a comic strip in that I liked and enjoyed. It's called Spann Jack. It was in a book and also in the New York newspapers. And this guy used to fly around and give people a ride for $1, and land in an open field, and he'd take you up and land with you. And I didn't have the $1. But what it did was inspire me to say, when I get to be old enough, I'm going to learn how to fly, and I'll be able to take people up for a ride. So that was my real inspiration to get into flying. And incidentally, since I've been back, my daughter was able to contact the comic strip writer, his daughter, his comic strip writer, no longer with us. And she sent me a comic strip that I use at my events.
Oh, really?
That came from her dad. Yeah. Well, incidentally, and so I enjoyed wanting to learn how to fly, so I joined the Army Air Corps, because I didn't have the $1 to go up with Smiling Jack or anybody else. And so I joined the Army Air Corps, and I had to take a 2-year college equivalency test in order to get into the Army Air Corps. Some of the fellows I hung around with were drafted, and they said, don't wait to be drafted, because you won't be able to get the choice of service where you want to go. So I took a 2-year college equivalency test, and I passed down in Newark, New Jersey, at the post office, and they gave me instructions about the train ride. But first, I had to go home and get permission from my mother to get into the Army Air Corps, because I wasn't of age. And she gave me permission. She said, son, if that's what you want to do, you go ahead and I'll pray for you. And all through my career she did, because I had a successful career. But getting back to the career, they sent me to Keesler Field in Biloxi, Mississippi. And well, the first real hard thing actually happened to me about segregation was on the train ride, and I don't want to leave this out because it was very important. When I got on, they gave me 6 meal tickets to get from Newark to Biloxi, Mississippi, and it was an overnight trip on a train, a sleeper they call it, or Pullman we call it today. When I got past Washington, D.C., one of the Pullman porters came over to me and said, look, son, when you come in the dining hall next time, we have to sit you over here, and we have to pull the curtain by the window, because we're in the deep South now, and when trains going north and trains coming south, sometimes they have to use the same track, and when we pull off on the siding and they see you sitting up in a white dining car, they may take a shot at you.
Wow.
That was my first introduction to hardcore segregation, and I'm not trying to say there wasn't segregation in New Jersey, but not like this. It was mostly by income in blocks wherever people lived. But that was my first, like I said, my first introduction to hardcore segregation. And so I ate, and I got on down to Mississippi, where I ran into my second incident. I presented my orders to the base commander, and actually it wasn't the commander, but whoever receives you at the reception center. And they said, well, we don't train black pilots to fly here, but they gave me a bunk and a place to eat. And I imagine they were pretty busy on the teletype trying to find out what to do with this guy who had orders to be a cadet, and we don't train him here. So about a week later, they sent me on to Tuskegee, put me on another train and sent me to Tuskegee, where this experimental program was in force to train black pilots to fly. And when I got there, the fellows who were there said, look, they don't think that, the fellows who were there in the program said, look, they don't think that we can learn how to fly, and if we learn how to fly, they don't think we're going to fight. And if you feel that way, get your hat. They don't even try it, they say. So that was my first introduction, and the first time I really became determined to succeed in this flying thing. That turned out to be inspirational to me. Well, I had to go to the college, Tuskegee College, for guys came in this special program from all over the country, and some guys didn't have the mathematics background that they needed in order to be flyers. So we had to go to Tuskegee for the college to get a background on mathematics and science for a short period of time. And we lived on the campus in a group of emeries, they call them, barracks, they call emeries down at the campus. And this is all before we went to the Army Air Corps base, which was about 6 miles away from the college. So, but while in pre-flight training, we got the chance to just take a ride in the Cub, but not do no teaching until we got to the base. So when we got to the base, we started 3 phases of training. Primary training, which was in a BT-13. Basic training was in a AT-6. Basic and advanced training was in the AT-6. And each phase of the training, you eliminated, so many people were eliminated. I want to mention that because that was pretty important, because even on a train ride down, I met some guys, they had some previous flying, and I thought that they were going to be good, and I wasn't going to be able to make it. And some of those guys got eliminated, and just got scared you half to death because I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, really.
I couldn't imagine going back home and telling my mother I didn't make it. So after training, at graduation, some of the family members would come down, and I was able to take my sister for a ride in '86.
Oh, cool.
And I did all these loops and things, and I thought I could scare her, but she wasn't afraid. So I was a little disappointed with that. But after graduation, we went on to Walterboro, North Carolina, to do our overseas training and before we went overseas. And when I got there, they had a basic trainer, a P-47 Thunderbolt to fly. And you read the book and talk to some guys, and you take it up, and you start your overseas training. Part of the overseas training included going out over the ocean and shooting at a target that was joined by a target plane. To the best of my knowledge, even though we didn't hit the target always, we never shot down any target planes. But that's what a rookie would do, you know?
Right.
So after that training, we were sent to Newport News, Virginia, for our trip overseas to join our group. This was a little difficulty for me because here I am, a flyer, and they put me on a cargo ship to go overseas.
Right.
But they did, and I went. Took us almost 26 days, I think.
Wow.
Go from Newport News in a convoy to Marseille, France, on this cargo ship. But on the way, we saw many interesting things. We got a kicker going on deck and seeing the whales, and also when we got to the Strait of Gibraltar, that was something I had read about in my geography. And we all had to wait outside of the Strait of Gibraltar to get our passage to go through, and that was kind of interesting to me. And we were going up to Marseille, France, and there they had troops came together there before they were shipped out to their outfits. And I don't want to leave this part out because I was happy to get an opportunity to get to Marseille, France, because I'd heard about all the nightclubs and the girly shows they had in Marseille. And I wondered if we could get a chance to go out. We didn't have any money, but we had cards that we could use and we did get a chance to go out to see some of the girly shows. And been before that and meet some of the other troops that came from, some came from Africa and other parts of the country. We had to take we landed in Naples, and my outfit, which I was supposed to join the 332nd Fighter Group, was on the other side of Italy, on the east coast of Italy. And we had to take a truck ride across the mountains over to join my outfit, which was on the Adriatic side of Italy. And when I got over there, I had trained for my overseas duties in the P-47 Thunderbolt, but when I got to the outfit in Italy, which was the 332nd Fighter Group, they put me in the 100th Fighter Squadron, and they had P-51 Mustangs. So what I had to do was read the tech manual and talk to some of the fellows who flew the P-51 and take it up for a little ride. I think they allowed you to get 4 or 5 hours in before you went on a mission.
Wow.
But on my first ride across, I used it to do a little exploring. I went out to see, to Rome, and check on leaning tower pieces and see if the sucker was really leaning. And that's what I used my check flight to do.
Wow.
And but then later on, I was assigned to my first mission, and my first mission we flew. All our missions were up the Adriatic, and I might say something about the base. We had 4 squadrons at the base on the Adriatic side of Italy, and 2 of the squadrons were based a single runway which faced one end into the sea and one end to the mountains, and 2 of the squadrons were based at the seaside of the runway, and 2 of the squadrons were based at the mountainside. And it didn't matter about crosswind and downwind, upwind. You took off from the end of the runway where your squadron was based.
Really? Wow.
So this was okay for the most part, but it turned out to be a real tragedy for one of our fellows who, in the haste to, he got in a plane, I think it was, and there's something wrong with it. After checking it out, you always check your plane out before you took off. And he wanted to get all his missions as fast as he could. He didn't want to miss a mission because he had just gotten married before he came overseas, and I imagine he wanted to get back to his wife. And so he jumped in out of that plane that was not fit for the mission, got another plane, and he was rushing out to the runway, and somehow or other the torque from his engine pulled him off the runway, and he nosed up in the ditch, because they had draining ditches along the side of the runway, and all that gasoline, this plane immediately caught on fire, and there was nothing we could do to save him. And that was my first introduction to real combat conditions, and one I'll never, ever, ever forget. To see that guy burn on the runway there, and nothing we could do to help him. Well, we did have other missions where we lost fellows, but not as vivid as this one. I personally was safely got back from all my missions, except for one time I had to call a mission short and land in northern Italy instead of getting all the way back to my base. Something was wrong with I think I got hit in one of my, I lost my hydraulic fluid some way, and I couldn't land the plane properly. But I was able to get the plane down in North Italy at one of our bases in North Italy, and get back to base the next day. It was a little different living in Italy in the tents, but we tried to make ourselves feel like we were in a hotel room. And when we got an opportunity to go to town, we wouldn't wear our khakis. We put on we call them pinks and greens. The jacket was green, and the trousers were pinkish color, so we call them pinks and greens. But in order to keep them clean, it was made out of this fiber that gabardine, some kind of gabardine, I think it was. And the pants were a light gray color, and sometimes you get them a little dirty. And what we would do was take a tank of 100 octane gasoline, and we dip our jackets and our pants, and it would clean them. And the one thing about the 100 octane gasoline, after it dried out, it didn't smell.
Right.
And that's where we cleaned our clothes. And I thought I would give you that little snippet about how we kept ourselves, our dress uniforms clean.
Wash your clothes in gasoline.
Gasoline. 100 octane gasoline.
You find what works and go with it.
Besides flying high altitude combat missions, I was able to be able to fly 6 reconnaissance missions.
Oh, okay.
And the difference between a high altitude bomber escort mission and a reconnaissance mission is that on reconnaissance missions you drop down after you get over the mountains to tree level, treetop level, so you can't be detected by the enemy, and you escort a fighter plane that came from Britain, a P-38 type fighter plane that usually came from Britain, and he has no guns, he just has a camera, and it's just 2 of you, and you take him deep into Germany to take pictures of mostly factories and the next targets for the ensuing days. And you know you're right up in enemy territory when you can see the farmer shaking a pitchfork at you.
Wow.
And of course we're anxious to get out of there, but the British pilot with the assigned to take so many pictures, he's going to stay until he gets all his pictures, and our job is to stay with him. And we were fortunate enough that we stayed with him in every job all the way and got him back home safely before we could come home.
Wow.
So those are the most exciting missions that I think I flew, besides, even though the bomber escort missions were good, but these were kind of exciting to be right down at the treetop level in the middle of Germany.
Low flying is fun.
Yeah, right, yes.
There's a level of danger with it, but,
but
that's
you like it.
also why it's a little fun, I think.
You like it.
Yeah.
You like it, yes.
Do you recall any situations that, you know, like any missions or any flights or anything, like great and horrible? You know, like what was one of the best flights you ever had, or what was one of the worst or scariest flights that you ever had?
To be very honest with you, and somehow when you're only in your early 20s and you had all this excellent training and you have some of the best leaders in the world, you're apprehensive, but I wouldn't call it scary. And you can't get me to say scary. And you just wish that sometimes you wish that your commander hadn't given you that order to not leave the formation and go off tracing planes, because everybody who trained as a fighter pilot wanted to be able to come home one day and talk to groups and say how they shot down somebody.
Right.
Without getting shot down. But it probably was the best thing for me. And I probably might not be here talking to you now today if I didn't follow orders as strict as my commander had me do. For every mission you fly, you were allotted 2 ounces of alcohol, and we'd save it up until we got a bottle, and then whosoever bottle was available to have the bottle, that's what we drink when we went in the clubhouse. But
yeah, it's kind of hard to enjoy just 2 ounces.
yeah, there's only two
so save it up. That was a good idea.
Yeah, that's what we do. Well, the war ended after my 26th mission in Europe, and but I want to mention one other mission I did fly was the longest mission that ever was undertaken by fighter planes in Europe. We flew from a place called Ramitelli on the Adriatic side of Italy all the way to Berlin when Hitler was there, and I wasn't afraid that Hitler was going to come up and get me, and I enjoyed. I was glad that I was assigned that flight, because it's something that I never like to leave out of my talk. It was my most historic flight that I took. So after the war, I had my favorite president too, because Harry Truman dropped a bomb, and we were supposed to go from Italy to Pacific to finish my tour of duty, because I had to get 35 missions in to have a complete tour of duty, and I only had 26 in. And Harry dropped the bomb and became my favorite president, and I got to go to the Pacific. I came home, on a boat. It didn't take us 26 days this time. We had another kind of ship, a tourist ship, and I think we got back home in about 10 days.
Oh, wow.
But when we landed in New York, it's not like you see today that everybody is there to welcome you home. We just got off the boat and we were sent to Camp Kilmore in New Jersey to be discharged from the service. And the fellows, New Jersey was my home, and it wasn't the home to some of the guys who were with me. But we somehow got out that night and caught a ride to New Jersey, caught a ride to a small town, New Jersey, where my mother lived, and she cooked us a good home-cooked meal. We all enjoyed that. We got back into camp safely and was officially discharged. After that incident, on the boat and in camp, we all said how we're going to be flyers and continue flying because we love flying. And so the first thing I wanted to do was make application to the airlines to get work flying. Well, we called up, stopped in, everybody trying to get jobs. They take an application. And I remember one incident where my captain, Rosco Brown, carried a newspaper with him all the time on these trips looking for a job. And he forgot his newspaper, and he went back. By the time he went back to pick his newspaper up, his application was in the garbage already.
Wow.
So that told us a story about the chances of getting employed. But my family stepped in again and said, "Look, son, we don't think you're going to get hired. You got to do something else." And they encouraged me to go back to school, and I did. And I went to Newark College of Engineering, and I got work in a chemical plant while I was going to school. But while I was going to school, something happened called affirmative action, where they were hiring minorities in all parts of industry, not just airlines, industry. And I got in touch with somebody, and I was working for a major chemical company, and I got in touch with somebody, and I got a job working for one of the selling pharmaceuticals all over the country. So
a little while ago, you were telling me about the story about your tie.
Oh yeah, this tie. You know, I mentioned earlier in my story that when I got out of service, I couldn't get a job flying anywhere, and so but one time I was out at Southwest Airlines, and there's a fellow out there by the name of Lou Freeman, and he recognized the fact that I was one of the people who enabled him to get the job flying commercial. And we were posing for pictures, and after we posed for the pictures, he took this tie off, and he wanted me to wear it on all my talks. So I have been able to wear it and keep it clean. Yes.